Hello Turtles! Most videos on YouTube of developers sharing their first release project discuss the process they took on that particular project. A post-mortem view of a project is a great tool for developers. However, it often overlooks or greatly simplifies the time and effort taken before starting that released game. I would like to discuss a few aspects of my recently released game, state how little it earned, and share tips of how I created it in 3 weeks. I will give a realistic view of my GameDev graveyard so a developer starting from nothing knows what to expect in releasing their first game. I wish to encourage those in the earlier parts of their adventure, as they can do it too. As I know you all care about the numbers, I have them on screen now, but we'll discuss in more detail later. Prior to releasing Accelerate, I had created and abandoned well over 100 game projects. More than 50 projects were from high school, where I started self-learning in QBasic before dabbling in C++, then moving to Visual Basic. More than 25 games were side projects in college that I used to reinforce the topics being taught. And finally, more than 25 projects were from Ludum Dare and Alaka Jam Game Jam events. Since the start of 2018, when I really began taking my indie adventure seriously, I have streamed the development of 5 games, and this was only my second release. You can ask me questions and learn more about GameDev at twitch.tv/timbodet or by commenting below. That is well over 100 games I've started and only 2 that have been released for money. So if you have to abandon a project, understand it is part of growing as a developer. It can also be a trap in my case, as I was stuck in a loop until releasing Archer in 2018. But that doesn't mean I've released every game since Archer. Rally of Rockets was an extreme oversight, perhaps overconfidence. I was hoping to do a multiplayer game in 4 months, which expanded into as long as it takes. That is bad for business. At the point it was put on hold, I was 8 months in and had $13,000 in time costs and expenses, and wasn't even 30% complete. It scared the out of me and was set aside to pursue a less risky course of action. This highlights a great reason to move on from a project: learning. For Rally of Rockets, I had learned 2 lessons. First was quality matters. This is what expanded the time frame from 4 months to undefined. The second lesson was how overscoped the project became with the higher quality bar. This led to putting the project on hold. A project that teaches you something new allows you to grow as a developer and reach higher peaks. Developers should not expect to sell their first game, as it is unlikely that many My First Release videos are about the developer's first project. They almost certainly climbed a mountain of canceled projects before the game discussed in their video. While moving away from a project can be super beneficial, it comes with the risk of falling into a trap. Shiny object syndrome is a real thing that can bounce your attention from project to project without completing anything. While there may be legitimate reasons, be wary about swapping to a cooler, new project just because it is better or easier. Chances are you are just in a slog with the current game and have found another fun idea. You can write these fun ideas down in an idea dump for later, then, after the current project is released, this list will bring back all the really fun ideas for your next project. If you're doing this purely for fun, without the intention whatsoever of making money or treating GameDev as a business, even a potential future business, then you have less reason to guard against shiny projects. Feel free to hop around as your heart desires. As a business, however, games need to be finished so they can get released and, with luck, make some money. Avoiding shiny objects can improve your discipline, which is required to ship games. As a business, time is money, so creating well-polished games in short time periods can increase the chances of success. It was possible to release Accelerate in 3 weeks, in large part because of all the failed attempts and projects prior to. Accelerate started as a jam game for Ludum Dare 46 when I was testing Unity for a month. With how much fun it was to play, I continued a post-jam version in crunch mode for 3 weeks and pushed out a solid game with more levels, achievements, and a ton of extra polish. As an independent game developer, every hour I spent on my adventure cost me a bit over $16. You can learn more about how much your time cost in this video up here. Let me know your figures in the comments below. In a month of pure crunch mode and 2 24-hour stream events, I put 161 hours into the game. My only expense was $50 for the amazing music made by a friend, Tyne, who has a Twitter link below. In total, Accelerate cost $2,658 to create. It took slightly over 3 weeks for the development and less than a week for marketing, as I used some of the marketing time to polish levels. I was on a time crunch because I was taking a planned break from Turbo Boom to explore Unity and had a specific date to return. I will repeat, there was less than a week of marketing efforts, if you can even call that effort. I viewed this game as a gift to those who wanted to support my adventure with a few dollars. I call it a support me project, and at present, I have not pushed it far beyond my community. I only released it on itch.io, did not contact the press, and my social media push was tiny. It is important to understand this is not how a game should be marketed.
Oh, really?
Or how I will approach marketing a full-size game like Turbo Boom.
Oh, really?
During the 24-hour weekend, I opened sales on the itch.io page for $3 based on my expectations of what would be completed. During this event, 9 copies of Accelerate were sold to supporters who wanted to access the developer preview version. Unfortunately, I didn't quite meet the expectations I set, which is why the week of marketing was interrupted with some work on level design. The day of the official release was May 11th, and 4 more people bought the game. By the end of the first week, 23 sales were made. Each sale was an average of just under $6, which is almost double the asking price. In total, the first month of the game grossed $289. This doesn't account for the cut itch.io takes, taxes, or publisher cuts if it had one. My cut will be closer to $250, perhaps less. That is just under 10% of the total costs. I would need to make 10 times that for the project to break even. Now, I'm not complaining about how little money I made. It was a project for supporters, and I didn't do a good marketing push. To date, Accelerate is the closest I've come to breaking even on a project, and most of that is due to the low number of hours spent on it. Turbo Boom presently has 900 hours for a time cost of $14,500, not including well over $750 in expenses. It is a larger game and more complete, but will it be capable of making 10% of its cost back? Maybe. The marketing approach will be vastly different.
Oh, really?
While building Accelerate, I learned a few amazing techniques I'd like to share. First is Mthenzia's super quick car modeling. While I can't do 10 in 10 minutes, as I haven't practiced that much, it is an incredibly quick method of making a cute car. Within 2 hours of Ludum Dare, I had the concept ready to go with a car, track, and all assets for the Jam version loaded into Unity. There was no physics or gameplay. This speed shocked me, and I believe most of it came from practicing Blender a lot more in recent months, though the car modeling techniques helped significantly too. Into the post-Jam version, I continued working on art a fair bit and discovered a great way for brainstorming and practicing my art skills. I had previously bought several Cinti asset packs for background objects or to assist in prototyping my games. By searching through these packs, I came up with many objects to create for the game. It also allowed me to study the geometry, and I learned a lot of neat things. While I referenced the set, I created everything myself. When you have used modeling software enough, you can see how various operations stack up to create the shape, like extrude here, scale there, etc. It may be harder to do this with higher poly assets, I'm not entirely sure, but with the Cinti or other low poly assets, this is great. This allowed the game to look pretty good for my capabilities. You want to get better at art, you must put in the time and effort. Practice. Another thing that went fairly well for this project was using Unity. While I prefer programming with my own engine, using Unity was faster and easier, and allowed me to successfully create a very entertaining game in 3 weeks. My engine doesn't have the toolset at this time to create a game that quickly. Perhaps someday. One thing that went a bit wrong with Accelerate was the extreme time crunch. Now, I had my reasons for such a narrow time span, but 160 hours through 3 weeks while holding a full-time job and being supported by a wonderful girlfriend was a significant crunch. I viewed it as a challenge to put out the best game I could within the allotted time. There was a fair bit of stress, especially as the deadline was approaching. Ultimately though, this short time span is what made Accelerate come closest to breaking even. Making games is a lot of fun. Making games as a business is extremely difficult. There are more things to consider than just the act of building a game. I am still new in this endeavor and doing the best I can. I will continue sharing the things I learn and ask that you share the video and give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Leave a comment or question if you have any, and subscribe for future game development tips. Until later, Turtles, have a good one. Should we go from the top again?